This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, we now bring you a discussion on peace and development in Northeast India. The participants are Pradeep Panjaban, political analyst, and KV Prasad, senior journalist.
In a major development concerning Northeast, several groups of Adivasi militants signed an accord with the centre and the Assam government, allowing themselves to come overground and end violence. These 8 Adivasi groups, which have over 1,000 plus cadres, all Adivasi National Liberation Army, the AANLA-FG as it is called, the Birsa Commando Force, the BT, Santal Tiger Force, Adivasi Cobra Militant of Assam, ACMA-PG and Adivasi People's Army. Pradeep, this is a very significant development because since 2006, there has been the ceasefire pact with the government. This tripartite agreement which was signed in Delhi yesterday in the presence of Home Minister. How do you see that as a bigger harbinger of peace in Assam and in the Northeast in general?
In a sense that the Adivasi groups, they were there, okay, they were marginalized to a great extent, which is why they protested and all that. But they are also not as powerful in terms of arms. So the government's initiative, overture rather, that anybody who is willing to be on the path of peace will be taken on board. I think that's a very good message for everybody else. Although we do have other groups which are much more powerful, much better armed, and much more dangerous, those groups will also have to be brought into the picture, into the fold. But this is a good message, it's a start, that you have to be interested in peace, and anybody who's in peace will be taken on board. That kind of message has been sent, and I hope that message reaches everybody, that you are interested in peace, you are ready to negotiate whatever terms that you want. If it is not really against the idea of the Constitution of India, then we will negotiate. If that is the message which has been sent out, and if that is a message which has been taken by everybody else, then I think it will be a very good beginning, in fact.
Pradeep, if you look at the track record and the kind of work that the government has put in since 2014, since the advent of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government in Delhi, 2014 we had the different insurgent groups in the Northeast, starting with the settlement of the NLFT SD in 2019, the Brue-Riang Agreement and the Bodo Accord in 2020, and the Karbi-Anglong Pact in 2021, the Assam-Meghalaya interstate border. So the Northeast, which was once considered to be a hotbed in terms of insurgency, in terms of militant crisis, in terms of armed clashes. So that seems to be, as you said, the signal is right. The government's intent is very clear, that bring people to negotiating table and return on the path of peace. If you come back on the peace path, it leads to progress and development. Is that the message all central to it?
I think that is the intended message. Whether that will be taken as such is another question, but I think that is the intended message, that if you are interested in peace, then peace and development will come together. And it's known fact that you don't have peace, development is going to be difficult. And intent of keeping away development, but if you don't have peace, if there's a law and order problem, then the development initiatives also suffer. So I think it's a twin kind of a message. We would like peace, and we would like everybody to be peaceful, to be interested in peace. But with that, the bonus is that development is going to come. And the government will also make the special initiative to make that happen. Once the law and order problem is no longer there, then development becomes much more easy. The initiatives for development, rather, that development is not going to happen on its own, but then to make initiatives for development, that you have peace first and then development comes. So if that's the kind of message, twin kind of message, that we are interested in peace as it is, but you have peace and then development is also going to come along with it. And so it's a twin message. If this message is taken well, then I think it will be a very good beginning. As I said, this is not the problems of the Northeast, because the Northeast problem is very complex. Even the militancy problem is complex. That one group, you sign a peace deal with one group. There are so many other groups which are still in the waiting, still are at large. So the kind of overture, the kind of impression that you give them, that if you put peace as priority, then anything can be settled. That kind of a message I think is very important. And this could be a very good start.
Well, in fact, the terms of settlement which was signed yesterday with this Adivasi armed group is very clear. 1, they gave up violence. 2, they follow the rule of law. And 3, they join the peaceful democratic process. Now, the centre and the Assam government have in return promised to fulfill with these groups political, economic, educational aspirations, protect and preserve and promote their social, cultural, linguistic and ethnic identity, and ensure focus and rapid development of tea gardens and Adivasi villages of Assam. Now, these are very significant factors because many of this have led to a lot of anguish among the people who have been there, the residents of these regions, the armed, especially those residing in the tea gardens, because this has been a source of constant conflict. So in that way, if you look at it, piece by piece, the government is trying to establish a rule of law and also bring people into the mainstream of national life.
Yeah, that's very true. And especially with the tea tribes, as they are known in Assam, they are very unfortunate lot in the sense that they were brought to Assam in the 19th century by the British when the tea garden was actually growing. The tea garden actually began 1834 when the Bruce brothers discovered tea, and then they started experimenting, and then it really worked. And it's a labor-intensive kind of an industry, so they needed that labor. And that labor was actually brought in from other parts of India, especially Chota Nagpur and all that. And then they were settled there. So they came there, and they were also not able to completely merge with the local environment. And also their work was different. If you're in the same work environment, then naturally there's a tendency to merge even the identity. But that didn't happen. They remained separate. And that has been a problem. And it's a problem of not of their own making. It's something which was introduced to them. They were poor, they were brought there, they settled there. And then there were many, many tribes within that same group. But because of the similar kind of predicament, they became united under one umbrella. And that's the basic situation there. And now the government is making the initiative to actually recognize that problem and then also give them their due. And they have many, many demands. Of course, the most prominent of these is livelihood. They are working there. They want their livelihoods improvement, the future of their children. They don't want the children to be actually trapped in that situation always. So I think if the government's new initiative includes all that, look into their insecurities, because you can have a settlement, but if that settlement is not well thought out, then you can leave out so many of those insecurities of the people, of the concerned people. And if that happens, then it can recur. One generation goes by, and then by the next generation, they may forget that agreement. They may also start thinking of new kinds of demands. So I think it is important for us all, I would say, for the government as well as the people who are affected, for everybody to actually think on those terms, that it has to be a solution which is lasting. For it to be lasting, it has to be dealing with the insecurities or the people who are protesting or the people who have been on the warpath. What led them to? If we identify that and address those problems.
Pradeep forms part of the agreement. If one goes through what has been said, just for the sake of the benefit of our listeners, the government did say it is going to establish a Adivasi Welfare and Development Council. It will rehabilitate the armed cadres and ensure welfare of the tea garden workers, and also importantly provide a 1,000 crore special development package for development of infrastructure, upgrade and Adivasi villages. So this, as you indicated and suggested, that there are many demands. So if those demands are to be met, and they will allow the people to come back and, as you said, ensure a better future for the children.
Yeah, I think that's very important. If that is actually kept in letter and spirit, I think this will be a good deal. In a sense that the tea tribes are there. They are not owners of the tea gardens. They are the workers there. They are under that unity of a workforce. And many of them actually would aspire to their children would be aspiring for other kind of profession. And those avenues have to be given. That if you want to be there, fine. If you want something else, you can. That's kind of an attitude. Unlike in the British days where they were brought there, they were brought there as indentured labor. They were paid something, but then it was almost different kind of a slavery. That you come there, your children will also be working there. You're trapped in that situation. If you free them from that kind of prison, then I think it will actually work. That you give hope to people who have for long been deprived of hope.
Package which is announced along with the kind of measures and the shows that it is a development with the human face. Basically, that's the whole approach as it appears.
That's it.
And
you have to be actually thinking on those lines. You have to be thinking of it as a human problem, not just as a law problem, but it's a human problem. The law problem came about because we were not able to tackle the human problem well. You have to approach it that way. And in fact, when I say you, it means everybody. Everybody has to look at it that way. That is a human problem. You tackle the human problem, and human problems are universal, so we will understand. When somebody complains of, say, lack of something else, let them go. Let them have the avenue to go. That kind of complaint, if you hear from them, you know, because you also can apply that to yourself and say that, this is my problem. Their problem is my problem as well. So it's a universal kind of problem. When you see it as a human problem, I think most of the problem if we have this kind of an approach, that we see it as a human problem, then the solutions will also become clearer.
Pradeep, one important thing is yesterday, both the Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, and Assam Chief Minister, Mr. Hemant Biswa Sarma, assured the Adivasi leaders that the centre and the Assam government will ensure that the terms of agreement with them are fully complied with. And they said that almost 93% of the assurances made in earlier records have been implemented. So that's a good sign if one looks at, because promises kept instill confidence in people and in government and administration, and that's what makes everything strong.
I think it's good. We put it down on paper and also make it some kind of a commitment of the government, not just of any party, but make it that of the government. So that, when I say this, because when you link it to politics shelf life is short. You have 5 years term and the next government may not be that. So if you have it as something put down into the administrative structure, then it will carry on. So I think we should be broad-minded enough like that to see it that way, that it has peace is a continual process, just as development is. It won't matter who is in power. That kind of an approach should be there. And I think that kind of broad-mindedness is actually going to sink in much deeper into the soul of the people, and the agreements will be much more lasting.
In fact, Pradeep, if you look at the bigger picture emerging from 2014, some of the statistics give us the kind of work that has been done. Reports tell us that 6,000 plus insurgents in the northeast region have surrendered to and over 9,500 were arrested. And there has been a massive reduction in violent incidents. And most importantly, something which not just Assam, but the whole of Northeast is that it says the government says all these peace measures have allowed almost 60% reduction in areas under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. And you will understand and appreciate that's a demand of the people of the region.
Yeah, that's very true. That the insurgency has been on the side in the past decade or so. Maybe it's fatigue or whatever, but then, as you mentioned, there's been a clear receding, sinking of the level of violence. That, insurgency, when we talk of insurgency, we always talk of the violence potential of any group. And that has been on a wane. It's been on the ebb. But while that is good, I think we should also be careful, because insurgency is born out of a particular mindset which is shared by a lot of people. So if that mindset is not gone, you can remove the insurgency, but as another generation turn, that insurgency can turn. So the important thing is, first of course, is the short-term kind of thing, that you end the insurgency, the actual violence. But after you ending that, then you take care of the mindset. And that can come with development, a particular kind of attitude, which actually says that we are in the same boat, that the human problem that we are talking about. We address those human problems, then it becomes lasting. But if you just end particular conflict with the truth, that can be, it's very important to end any kind of conflict. But that conflict had a reason. If you don't address those reasons, the conflict can recur. We have to be careful about that. And I'm sure the government is aware of that. Yeah.
Yesterday, the government said that this has enabled 60% reduction in areas under Aspara. So I think that's an important point for the region.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The Aspara has been around for a long time. It's almost as old as India's independence. And it is again receding, and this should have happened much earlier, because so many of the areas where Aspara was didn't actually need it. For instance, you have peace deal with the Nagas. Why should you have Aspara there? We still have Aspara there in Nagaland, but although part of it has been removed. So I think, again, it's a good beginning that we are actually slowly lifting off something which is not desired by the people here, the people in the Northeast, and also something which is a lot anachronistic, that you have democracy on one hand, and then you have the army rule on the other hand. These two things don't gel. When there was a huge emergency, maybe it was necessary. That emergency is gone. As you were saying, if so many emergencies have gone, the violence has gone down and all that. If that is the case, then it's time for this particular act to go on. But if you cannot remove it immediately, totally, then you have to begin by actually lifting it from areas which you think are safe. And that's actually what's happening at the moment.
I think the approach in this is very clear. That government, both the center and states, are balancing the requirement in terms of security and law and order and the demands of the people where peace has returned. I think that's what is indicated. And I'm sure in the days to come, we'll have more such positive news coming from the region and also the state which has just had accord. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on peace and development in Northeast India. The participants were Pradeep Panjaban, political analyst, and KV Prasad, senior journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on EIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on EIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.